guys, welcome back to A Page in the Chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige. I like to read a lot of books and then share my thoughts on them here with you guys. Although if you're looking for really clever academic content, then this is not the place for that. It's usually just me fangirling, and I would not have it any other way. So today I'm going to be giving you some book recommendations based on drinking games. So this really isn't a surprise, but someone suggested this idea on Friday night when we were all drinking. If you guys have seen some of my vlogs, then you know that me and my flatmates do something called Fancy Friday. And so this video idea is a product of that. If you're looking for some book recommendations or you're looking for some drinking game recommendations, then this is the video for you. If you guys like this idea and you want to check out some of my other videos, then do please hit that big red subscribe button down below. We are getting so close to 300 subscribers, which is just absolutely insane. Thank you guys so much for all your support on this channel. And so now I will not take up any more of your time. We can get on into drinking games in book form. The way this video is going to work is I am going to tell you a drinking game, I will explain the rules of the drinking game, I will then explain what the theme of this drinking game is and how I have taken it to be translated into a book, and then I will give you not one, sometimes two, but most of the time 3 book recommendations based on that theme for that drinking game. So there's going to be a lot of recommendations in this video. Get your TBR lists ready and let's go. So the first drinking game I'm going to talk about is usually played as part of another drinking game, but it is still just as fun on its own, and that is Waterfall. So Waterfall is essentially whoever suggested Waterfall has to start downing their drink. As soon as that person starts downing their drink, the next person goes, and then the next person goes, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next. And then when the person who started the waterfall stops drinking their drink, the next person can stop, and the next, and the next, and the next, and so on. It's a lot of targeting people in Waterfall, which is half the fun. So I have taken Waterfall to mean the drama just keeps coming, and every time you think it's about to stop or the books calm down, just comes back again. This is one of the few ones on this list where I only have 2 recommendations, and I don't think either of them will surprise you. So the first book that I think the drama just keeps on coming and coming is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas. I'm not going to bore you with my fangirling over this book again. If you are new here, I'm already deeming this my favourite book of 2021. I don't need to read any more to know that. This book, it will kill you off. It keeps coming. Every time you think it's going to slow down or all the dramas come, more just comes. I don't understand how one person could come up with so many dramatic things to happen in one book, but they're all here. So this is in very typical Sarah J Maas style. It's an urban fantasy following a main character who is half fae, but there are other mythical creatures in here as well, and they all belong to houses, and these houses are essentially political factions. So our main character Bryce is half human, half fae, which means she's not awarded very many rights in society, but she has a lot of powerful friends, and when these friends are then murdered by a demon, Bryce teams up with a fallen angel to try and solve the murder of her best friends. It's perfection in book form, and if you haven't read it yet, you need to read it, but save it for when you are emotionally prepared for it. If you want drama after drama after drama, House of Earth and Blood should be next on your TBR. And you can tell that there's really a theme here because the next book for the Waterfall prompt is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I only just finished this yesterday, but wow, is there drama! You will also see this book crop up later in this video because it just worked too well for another one of the prompts. If you want to hear my full thoughts on this book, then do stay tuned for my February wrap-up that's going to come out at the end of the month. This is essentially about our main character, Poppy, and she has been deemed the maiden. She has been chosen by the gods, protected by the gods, and she is going to save the kingdom and be someone really, really important for the kingdom. But the kingdom is also kind of being attacked, and there's this underground group of people who want to overthrow the people in charge, and so she is assigned to be guarded by this man called Hawk, and he is supposed to protect her from the Dark One who is trying to abduct her. It keeps coming. You are launched straight into the romance from the get-go, but not in like an insta-love kind of way. It's so good. It just keeps going from the get-go. You will not be bored for a moment of this, and the last 150 pages really did kill me. I was clearly the last member of the Waterfall for this book because it was that last little stint that killed me. The next drinking game is one that I'm sure you are all aware of, and that is Piccolo. If you don't go to uni or do much drinking, then you maybe won't know what this game is. It's essentially just an app on your phone. You download the app, they have different expansions you can buy, but the base game is free. You put everyone's names into this app and then it will randomly generate rules, games, truth or dares, you know, that kind of stuff for you to do, and it might say X, drink 3 sips if you've ever done this. That kind of game, and it works really well. So the prompt that I have chosen for this is a book where the most random things occur. If you guys have played Piccolo, especially some of the expansion packs, it's strange. And so the first book I have chosen for this is Paul Takes the Form of a Mortal Girl by Andrea Lawler. This book is personally not my favourite in the world, but I know so many people love this, and if you like books where it's just really random, then I think this will be for you because I've heard really good things about it. It was just a little bit too far out of my comfort zone for me. So this follows our main character Paul, and he is a shapeshifter and he can shapeshift between genders basically, and it follows him through early 1990s San Francisco as he is just navigating life and sexuality and gender and shapeshifting. A lot of people find this really funny. They think it's a really game-changing, gender-bending book, and it really is, and I think if it interests you then it's worth checking it out. So the next book I want to talk about for a book where just very weird things happen is a book that I heard talked about on someone else's channel, and it was just so strange that I had to add it to my TBR. Even though I would never normally read something like this, the concept was just so odd. And that is Jelly by Claire Reese. So this is a book where the world is now like completely underwater and has been taken over by water, and it's about this group of people who are living on top of a giant jellyfish. How strange. How on earth do you come up with this? Claire Reese must have been drunk, surely, when she thought of this idea. What a concept. And so I haven't read this enough to really give you any advice or review on it, but just for that concept alone, I had to go for the weirdest books. The next game that I want to talk about is one that I am kind of sick of playing now because you play it so much when you first start drinking, but it's fun nonetheless, and that is Ring of Fire. So Ring of Fire is essentially a game where you have a cup in the middle of the table and you create a ring of cards around it, and then you go around in a circle and you pull a card, and each card will mean something different. So like for a king you have to pour a little bit of your drink into the center cup, for an ace you have to do a waterfall, for a jack you have to make a rule, etc. Like they all have different rules, and you could just Google these rules online, and you play it so much you then learn them off by heart. But this is a very, very popular game. I'm sure you've all heard of it. And so my rule for this is a book that is formulaic and you know what's coming, but you love it anyway. And I feel like this could apply to a lot of books. So the first book that I want to talk about is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. And do not get me wrong, I gave this a 5-star. I will continue to rave about it. I will buy and love every book in this series, I am sure. Do not take this as me criticising this book. However, at this point, Cassandra Clare does have a bit of a formula. We do kind of all know what to expect when we pick up a Cassandra Clare book now. It's just part of being an author who is still writing within the same universe like 10 years after the first one came out, and good for her that she is still able to do that and keep it fresh, and I do really think this is a fresh take on it. It is about the children of the characters in Cassandra Clare's The Infernal Devices books. It takes place in Edwardian England, and essentially demon activity is really ramping up in London. They're not entirely sure why, and it's about Cordelia Carstairs joining forces with James and Lucy Herondale to get to the bottom of all this demon activity. I truly, truly believe that this has the potential to be what Cassandra Clare's best Shadowhunter series. And so I did mention earlier that I would be mentioning this book again, and so From Blood and Ash also fits this prompt. Less on the formulaic side, but on the you do kind of know what's coming. But again, I think this is more just me being a little bit too familiar with this genre at this point. I felt like it was really fitting for this prompt because I kind of saw it coming, but I was still very, very willing to read it and was enjoying it, and I was actually really looking forward to the drama, and I was not disappointed. And finally, for books that are formulaic and you know what's coming but you love them anyway, Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I did really enjoy this. Looking back, I enjoyed this a lot more than when I originally read it and I was vlogging it for you guys. So this is a YA mystery series that follows our main character, and she is obsessed with true crime, and she goes to this super fancy boarding school which has a mystery attached to it, and so she is intent on solving this big mystery, and there's also modern day mysteries going on as well that she wants to solve. So the reason that I think this is a bit formulaic is every book I feel is gonna follow this exact same layout. She's gonna be trying to solve olden day mystery, a new mystery is gonna happen, and then she's gonna solve the new mystery. It's not a criticism of that. I actually really enjoyed it, and this book was so fast paced that I didn't find it to be a slog or annoying. And I also haven't read the second book. I have it, but I have not read it yet. So I can't say with certainty whether this is going to be formulaic, but I can pretty much just see every book following the same concept. Otherwise, I don't think it would work as a trilogy. It being formulaic is going to be to the benefit of this series. The next game that we're going to talk about is a game called Flip Cup. And I hate this game because I suck at it. So this is basically a relay race. You each pour the same amount of liquid / alcohol into cups, and then you race to down one, flip one. First to down all their drinks and flip the cup over wins. And I suck at this game. The theme that I have taken for this book is fast paced but death. If you play Flip Cup, especially if you play it more than once, you're gonna have a messy night. You're probably gonna black out. It's a harsh game, and it's absolutely no surprise the book that I've chosen first. I think you already all have exactly the same book in your head for fast paced but death. The Poppy War. Bro, I haven't even read the rest of this series yet, and I know that it's gonna kill me. This book somehow covers like the space of 5 years just in the first half of the book. It's done incredibly. I recommend it so much. I know everyone is talking about the series, and it is a miracle I have not seen spoilers for the last 2 books yet, and I will get to them, but I'm just not really sure I'm ready for the depression that's gonna hit when I read the last 2 books, so I'm putting it off to like completely switch up the vibe from that. Another book that is like fast paced but death is The Midnight Library. So this was my favourite book of 2020, I'm sure you all know that. I did take a break from talking about it though. I managed to not talk about it for like a month, and now we're back to talking about it. So this is taking the prompt a little bit literally, because this is a really short book and really fast paced, and it's literally about death. So this is about our main character, Nora, and she finds herself in this place called the Midnight Library. And essentially, it's a place where you can assess your regrets and say, I would really like to see what would have happened if I had made a different decision here. And then you will get to experience that different timeline, essentially. And it's a book that deals a lot with mental illness, but also is an incredibly uplifting story. And if you haven't read it yet, then I highly recommend that you do, because I just find it to be such a comforting tale, and I think we all need that now. So the next game that I am going to talk to you about is a game called Pyramid. And I think this is a lesser known one. When I've brought this up with people recently, they haven't seemed to know what Pyramid is. But essentially, in Pyramid, you lay some cards out in a pyramid, and then you deal each player 3 cards. These players are allowed to look at their cards once, and they have to remember the number and the order that the cards are in, and then they put them face down on the table, and they are not allowed to look at them again. Then, when everyone has their order and numbers memorized, the dealer or someone in the group will turn over 1 card at the bottom of the pyramid. Someone in the circle could then say, oh, I have that card in my 3 cards, and say, X, drink. Now X can either take the drinks, or he can go, no, I think you're lying, and call that person out. And that person will then have to turn over their card, which is why it's important to remember the order, and if they are right, then the person they accused has to drink, and if they were lying, then the liar has to drink double the amount that they gave out. And then you just work your way up the pyramid, and each row of the pyramid is worth a different amount of drinks. So you do not want to be caught lying at that top card, because you're going to be just downing a whole bottle basically. So I have defined this game as a book with no loyalty, where everything builds to one moment. The book I have chosen for this is The Raven and the Dove. This is a Tristan and Isolde retelling, which is a medieval romance. I'm really looking forward to this. It is a retelling that we don't really have much of, and it's just so exciting to see different retellings popping up. This is like a 2 star-crossed lovers unforgettable story kind of deal. I believe there's some kind of marriage trial thing. And this very much just seems like a book where there's going to be all kinds of betrayals, either by our main characters or towards our main characters, and I feel like it's all going to build to one specific moment at the end. I don't think it's going to be one of those books where there's like dramas and like climaxes kind of happening all throughout the book. I think there will be world building, bang. So that's why I've chosen this book. The next book I've chosen for this was the first one that popped into my head as soon as I said no loyalty, and that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It's a little bit unfair of me to say she's not loyal. If you've read the book, then you know what I mean. It does fit, and again, this is kind of a book that all builds to one moment. So Evelyn Hugo is this massive 1950s movie star, and she asks our main character kind of to write her memoirs for her, and so it's about our main character sitting down and having a conversation with Evelyn Hugo about what her life was really like, because everyone only ever wanted to focus on the fact that she had 7 husbands rather than how successful she was as a woman herself. And the final book I'm going to talk about for this prompt is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I felt like, again, this just fit the no loyalty thing to a T. So this follows our main characters Victor and Eli, and so Victor and Eli were friends during college. They are researching something together that I think is supernatural, but I'm not entirely sure. And when it becomes more of an experimental project, things go horribly wrong. And then 10 years later, Victor breaks out of prison and is chasing after his now enemy Eli. And what I'm really looking forward to about this book is that both main characters are going to be very morally grey, quite dark characters. And the final drinking game I want to talk about is one that I've actually played more times not as a drinking game than a drinking game, and that is Irish or Egyptian Snap. You might need to Google the rules for this one because it's very hard to explain. It's basically Snap, but there are multiple things that can be Snap. So the rule I've taken for this one is something that is complicated with lots of rules but is incredibly entertaining once you get the hang of it. So the first book is one that you guys all know that I love, and that is Again by E. Lockhart. This, very similarly to The Midnight Library, is about different timelines of reality, different endings to the same situation, except this is definitely more of a YA version. This has fairly low reviews on Goodreads, I think pretty much just because it's quite a confusing book and so many people give up. But if you really stick with it, then it starts to flow so much more. You really get used to the way it's written in. It's a really, really enjoyable experience. So this kind of encompassed this prompt so perfectly. The next book that I want to talk about is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I am reading this currently, so I can't give away too much because I'm in the middle of it. This is about a school of magic where the only way you can ever leave is to graduate or to die. And I believe there's some kind of demon killing involved, and it's just a really, really intense school where there's no teachers, there's no holidays, and you only make friends if you need allies when fighting. And our main character has some kind of dark, mystical power that this book explores. This is quite a confusing book in that you are very much just thrown in from the get-go. The school setting is a very big driver of this plot. I think it's one of those books where once you accept that it is setting driven and that you are in an environment that you don't completely understand or are used to, then you can just go with it and actually start to enjoy it. But I have really high hopes for this, and I do think it will be very entertaining once I am on board with how this book's going. And so there are my book recommendations based on drinking games. Hopefully you either found some book recommendations or some new drinking games out of this video. It was a bit of a 2-in-1, and I really hope you enjoyed. This is a strange and weird concept, and probably not something that any of you needed, but someone suggested the idea, and then I just had to do it. I have this problem where once I get an idea in my head, no matter how stupid, I just have to do it. Thank you very much for watching, especially if you made it this far. If you did make it this far, then why not hit that big red subscribe button down below. I post twice a week on a Wednesday and a Friday, so there is absolutely no shortage of bookish content here. And if you somehow want even more bookish content, then you can check out my Twitter and my Instagram, where we can engage and chat more about books beyond my videos. Thank you very, very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys for my next video. Bye guys.